Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to make a video on about bad abilities and why you need to stop defending them because they're just bad. Please, if you don't stop defending them, we'll never get changes. Screw you, Ordis. So, when we talk about bad abilities, what we mean is there are just certain abilities in everyone's kit that are just bad. And it's usually the abilities that get subzoomed off to some degree, or maybe they're one buff away from being excellent, but because of that buff does not exist, we just kind of forget about them because they're not as good as they could be. Um, so let's go over some of those. We got abilities like Ice Wave, and yes, I had to make a Frost mention in the video. We have other abilities like Decoy. This is just bad. Everybody knows it, and if you disagree, then Jesus Christ, you have issues. We have other abilities like Ripline, and we got stuff like Soul Gate and the iconic Soul Punch. All these abilities are hilariously bad, and yet we will have people who will defend them to death. I don't care if this can kill, an enemy who's like level 20 in normal chart. This does nothing for you in Steel Path. And you'll get that one guy's like, well, you can actually isolate a target, and then so whenever you use the shadows, okay, that guy will be the guy you targeted, so he'll pop up in your shadow, so you don't get the bad abilities or the bad guys, and so you get the good guys that you want. Stop defending it. This is ass. This needs changes. And the more you defend it, the less time it's going to ever take for this to get changes. There's no reason stuff like this needs to be in the game. This is a free auto, like, just sub-zoom off for like 90% of players. So, I've made a couple Frost rework concept videos now. Specifically, I've made two. Um, and something I always get in the comments is there's at least one guy who's going to say it, right? It's like, they don't need a rework. Loki needs a rework. Loki should be top priority or something like that, right? And honestly, I don't think Loki is a horrible character because, I mean, he has his third ability and that augment is ridiculous. But ignoring that, he he does need a rework. He's not really fun to play. Most people use him for the invis, and that's it. Let's be honest. You're probably like running a spy mission, or if you're like me, then you're probably like farming out like Samara standing. Um, but there's not many people who are going to play him because of just his lack of fun features, right? I mean, when you have a passive that is this, there's he was doomed from the start. Let's be honest. Um, but just kind of go over some ideas of like how to change him to be better. And I'm not. This isn't going to be like a full-fledged rework. This is not the point of the video. But it's just like when you have abilities like Decoy. Decoy is ass. Okay, objectively it is ass. You have Invis, which is really good, and then you have Switch Teleport, which it has potential. But let's say we just rolled all three of these abilities into one ability. Say you switch teleport with somebody, and when you switch, that makes you invisible, but the guy you switch with turns into the decoy, and so everybody just aggroes to that one guy, and they start shooting at him. And maybe you can make it so this guy, that one guy has like way reduced DR, or maybe he's just super tanky or something like that, and like he's like super strong, and he's able to kill enemies like really fast. And then we can get into something like Radial Disarm, where this can becomes like his like new two, since we just basically got rid of like his entire kit. But yeah, it's become like his new two, and say it has like counter pulse on it, where like the enemies like their gums are jammed and they're like shaking it, like what why not work? And then it blows up in their face, and that could make them have like lower damage reductions, or maybe it can armor shred, or it can apply statuses, stuff like that. This is all stuff that you could do to this one character and make him more playable. Obviously, now we have like two more abilities to fill in here, but I'm sure somebody come up with something like, I don't know, play into his namesake, like add like Fenrir or like something to the game. I don't know. You could do something. Now here's Haro. Haro is known for having arguably the best kit in the entire game. As long as your teammates aren't taking your kills. But he's known for having some of the best kit in the game. All of his abilities synergize with each other. You have Condemn for getting your shields back and CCing. You have Penance for getting up your fire rates and reload speed and all that type of stuff. You have Thurible to get energy back. This is always going to be nice. And then you have Covenant for his damage. If you take off any of those abilities, you're going to be reducing his output significantly. The only one on there that's even remotely worth taking off is Penance. But even then, like, why would you do that? His kit works so well together that it's honestly kind of a disdain to him to do that. And I would like to see more characters kind of get this treatment where they have just abilities that are good. Also, I don't know if you guys see that yeah, I got these. I got flex on you guys. If you guys will see the build just real quick, that's not the button. No, that's not the button either. This is the button. Here we go. There's the build. If you guys want to check, is what it is. Hope you guys enjoy. If you want to copy it. And another fantastic character I think about when it has like a great kit. I always think Nidus. The Nidus, like all of his abilities work together pretty well. There's nothing on his kit that's objectively bad. He can make use of all of it, and because he has a unique system where he doesn't constantly have to use energy all the time, he gets a benefit of not really needing to build too much into him. And I mean, like, for example, that's not what I wanted. I mean, when I look at my build, right, I have three augments for this motherfucker, okay? I mean, obviously, this is a vitality mod, so technically it's not an augment, but it's essentially an augment. But, like, I have three augments on this dude. And I mean, obviously, I do not think this needs to be an augment. This should be in his kit at base, but whatever. Anyways, but I have three augments on this dude. Why? Because I think he's more fun to play this way. Obviously, like, fun is subjective and whatnot. But the point is, you have a character whose entire kit flows, and because of that, it doesn't matter what you do in your kit, it's going to be worthwhile to the character. So, for example, if I use Ravenous and I have Insatiable, I'm going to be getting stacks constantly. I need more stacks to get more health. The more stacks I have, the more damage and other stuff I can do, which obviously will stack even higher. I can use Parasitic Link to get health and damage reduction. I can use Virulence to build up my stacks. I can use Larva to group them up so I can build my stacks even easier. Everything in his kit flows perfectly. This cannot be said about a lot of other characters, and because of that, when you have a bad ability on those characters, it sticks out way more. Another character who comes to mind is Neja. Neja has a really good kit. A lot of his stuff flows together, but he does have that one ability that just kind of sticks out, and that's Firewalk. I mean, Firewalk, all it does is just increase his speed. That's the only thing people really use it for. Um, and that's fine and all, but like when you have the rest of his kit that works really well together, it just feels off. I mean, Blazing Chakram you use to get your energy back. Use Warding Halo for his survivability, and use Divine Spears in tandem with Blazing Chakram, so you get a bunch of energy back and a bunch of health and energy if you're on Equilibrium, so you double dip. And with his new augment, which is a good augment, it's an augment that actually needs to be in the game, not just built into the kit, because there's certain augments that are in the game that are like, okay, this should just be part of the ability. Why is this an augment? But his Divine Retribution augment is actually deserves to be its own augment. It's worthwhile to be an augment and to be put onto a build as a mod. But this goes back to the point about Firewalk. If all Firewalk is essentially a speed increase, which you can't even increase like the strength of the speed, which is makes it that much more funny to me. It's it feels counterproductive. And for those of you just wondering, here's the build. If you're just wondering what I was running, there you go. And this is where we kind of get into the other issue with about like characters who have what is potentially really good abilities, but they just missed the mark. And obviously we got Protea Prime. She came out recently. Temporal Anchor. This ability is realistically should be one of her. This should be her best ability, but it's not, and that's because I don't know. Maybe DE like pussyfooted around and thought that making her basically invincible would be too much of a hassle. But the thing is, we have characters like Revenant. Who the fuck cares? We have Invis characters. Who the fuck cares? Like I. There could have been so much more done with this. Like, I don't know, maybe make this her actual passive. I think that'd be kind of cool. Like her unique dodge, she dodges into it like say like Limbo's Rift or something like that. And then say maybe like every 10 seconds or whatever, it drops a new anchor point to keep up with. And if say maybe her shield's broke, then she goes back to that anchor point or whatever. I don't know, something more unique than what is this. But it's just this realistically should be her best ability, or at the very least, like one of the coolest parts of her kit. There's not many games that do, like rewind time skips and like fast travel and stuff like that, like very well. And I think Warframe does just miss the mark on Temporal Anchor, and it's really good. It's a really like close one there, but it always gets scuffed. And just a tiny buff to this ability could not only make this her best ability and make people stop subzooming it off, because as it is right now, this is the only ability you get rid of, because the rest of her kit, this is how she stays alive, this is how she kills, and this is how she stays in the game. So, like, It's just kind of awkward for her to have this one ability that honestly it's just an energy drain, and that's basically it. In higher difficulties, if you run the augment like I am right now, yeah, you can get away with some stuff, but that's just that. And for those wondering, there's the build. I'd also recommend running purple Archon shards. Obviously, at this point, even with Equilibrium on, it's a bit much, but I mean, if I just pick up like one energy or health orb and I have like 300 energy, that's pretty fun. So that's why I do it. Um, and of course, we end up getting characters like Limbo. Limbo is iconic for, Cataclysm and, locking people in. But most players nowadays won't even know about that or they never experienced it, so it doesn't matter too much. But he has such an interesting kit as far as like his 1, 2, and 3 go. But then you get to his 4, and then you realize his entire kit's fucking pointless because you get on one tile set with a Corpus and they completely fuck you over. And then not to mention you have the Xmas enemies. But the thing is, overall, his kit realistically should be good, but it just kind of falls flat because he gets fucked over by too many enemies. So even though he does have some good abilities in here, the enemies alone like make him bad. Even though he's like realistically like an A tier character, he can easily drop down to C depending on what tile set you're on, or like what modifiers you have active. So makes him incredibly difficult to play in higher level content because you're constantly getting fucked over. And again, for those wondering, here's the Limbo build if you're just curious. Last but not least, Garuda. I like Garuda. Garuda's like one of my favorite frames. Um, and I still think to this day, Blood Altar is not as good as Gloom because Gloom allows you to be mobile and keep moving through maps and stuff like that and tile sets. However, just for those you wondering, I have a Gloom Ruda build, and I also have a Gun Ruda build where you do like the health tanking with Blood Altar, and it is a fun playstyle. If I'm going to sit on one objective, sure, but if I'm moving through a tile set, then Gloom becomes the objectively better choice. I do not think inherently Blood Altar is bad. It's just bad for a character's playstyle who has to keep moving through a goddamn map. Even in this trailer, you see her moving all over the damn place, and it literally snaps to like targets. You teleport with this damn thing, basically. So it's like it doesn't even really know what this ability wants to be. And I also have like Nuke Root if you guys just want to like build her for her 1 and her 4. But anyways, the point is, I think Gloom is going to be the objectively better choice here, and that's one of the big issues. And I've mentioned this back with like the helminth problem. It's you have objectively better like choices, so what ends up happening is, well, because it's better, then I'm just going to become a meta slave. I cannot describe how little people actually use subzooms. The people who do, they'll say like, "Oh, I do it for fun" or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm sure it's a whole lot of fun running roar on every fucking build. So, it's just kind of funny when you see that because like it's almost like you're lying to yourself. There's no way that you're having air quote fun when all your subzooms are exactly the same, or you look for the first thing you do when you find the characters, find immediately their weakest ability, then replace it with something else that's just a better version of it. Needless to say, can we please stop defending bad abilities so they can get buffs? And also, we also need to like fight back on these augments. Like this should not fucking exist. This is dumb. This is dumb. There's just augments in the game that should not exist. For example, like Excalibur here, we have Chromatic Blade. Why does Chromatic Blade exist? It shouldn't. It's dumb. It's not a bad augment. Matter of fact, it's mandatory. But the thing is, why is it fucking mandatory when this could be just built into his base kit? It could be a unique interaction with him just off rip. Now, for say like Furious Javelin, I understand this being an augment. This makes sense. But for something like this, which is literally mandatory to use his iconic ability, why? And going back to Necros, why is Shield of Shadows an augment? This should be built into his kit. This is one of the very few ways he has to survive. Why isn't this built into his kit just outright? Why does it take an augment? Another great example, Hydroid. Title immunity or impunity. Uh, Basically, it's rolling guard, but for his 2. Why isn't this built into his kit? Like, this stuff doesn't make sense. It literally does not make sense. When you have these augments that could easily be built into his kit, but we just call it a buff to the ability, it feels like you're spitting in the face of your players because this should just be built in the kit. Like there's no reason why it shouldn't be. And for example, Pilfering Swarm, I could kind of understand this one, not having it, but also at the same time, Like, why not? If he's the whole thing, he's a pirate, and this is how he loots people and he pillages them and stuff like that. Like, why is this an augment? You know, like I obviously I run both of these. I do this for like health and energy for my equilibrium. But with that being said, it's just these some of these augments they feel like they're just so out of place. And there are good augments. For example, starting off with Frost, we have Icy Avalanche. This augment is not mandatory to run on him. I mean, it kind of is because Avalanche is his best ability, but like you could play him very easily without this augment, like very easily. All this does is basically give you an extra level of protection, but it is not mandatory. This is just a good augment. And again, with Nezha, we have a great ability with our new augment with Divine Retribution. This deserves to be an augment. An iconic character right here. We got Mesa, and you know Mesa's Waltz is extremely iconic mod for the character, and not having it is a choice. And that's what augments should feel like. They should feel like a choice, not like a mandatory slot on. It's something that you want to do to make the character feel either better to play, or maybe you build into a unique playstyle. What most augments end up becoming, though, is just a buff to the ability because the ability's bad, and now we give this stupidly strong buff to this ability instead of just building it into the kit. Pretty sure I'm not the only person when I say that I do not want augments to buff abilities. I want augments to enhance abilities. If the reason why I'm using an ability is because of an augment, then that ability's fucking ass. That ability should be good on its own right, and the augment should be there to make it just feel different, play, give you a new play style. That's how augments should be constructed. So, anyways, back to the point of the main video that I was saying. Can we just stop having bad abilities? I mean, like, ballistic battery is a bad ability. I know there's some people who make builds with this, and yeah, sure, it can be good in certain circumstances if you like start linking damage and stuff like that. But it's just, please stop defending bad abilities. They're never going to get better if you don't stop defending them. So with that, I bid you guys adieu. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys didn't check out my last video with the frost rework concept, highly recommend go checking it out. It'll be linked in the description and in the comment below. And yeah, thanks for watching.